Hello, my fellow extraordinary Americans. My name is Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America? Well, you see, America has always been about freedom, opportunity, and the pursuit of happiness. However, most Americans are not free when it comes to the financial front. Most Americans are suffering from financial slavery due to loss of jobs, stagnant wages, inflation, and debt. Wealth and income inequality is the norm now, and the middle class has all but disappeared. So Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It is about the financial freedom of the 99%. It is about the nation of immigrants and the descendant of immigrants restoring the extraordinary within themselves and setting themselves free. The path to financial freedom is through financial education. It is through becoming entrepreneurs and investors on the light side. In this podcast, I interview fellow Americans who fought against the odds. Many of them came from humble beginnings to see how they did it. It is my hope through these interviews that the extraordinary within you shall awaken and that you will abolish financial slavery from your life and realize the American dream. Once again, welcome to Extraordinary America. Welcome back to the show, my fellow extraordinary Americans. For today's guest, we have Brandon Mehrgut. Brandon is the founder of Modern Mindfulness, which is a mindfulness training and consulting organization with over 1,000 active members alone in Austin, Texas. He's a certified corporate-based mindfulness trainer and has experience in coaching a wide range of clients and organizations ranging from the US government, the New Orleans FBI, and companies such as Volkswagen, Chevron, Disney, Lego, Alibaba, and others. Before this, he had founded the China Trainers Community, China's largest community of English-speaking corporate trainers for Fortune 500 companies. Brandon believes that meditation combined with the right mindset is the key to creating a better world, and his insights on this subject is one of the main reasons why I have him on this show. And I'm excited to have him over here. Brandon, are you there?
What's going on?
Hey, Brandon, I'm really excited and glad to have you on this show. It's an honor.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Brandon, I know that you're an entrepreneur and like you're into meditation and all of that. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Yeah, sure. I would say my self-help journey began when I was 19 and I lost a bunch of weight. And then I wanted to really improve my psychological self, my spiritual self. It was just like drinking water through a fire hose. Like, where the hell do you begin? You want to be a better human being. You know, it's like impossible to find a starting point. So I was gravitating towards simplistic methods, and to watch the mind made a lot of sense to me. So I started getting into meditation, and I knew that I wanted to help a lot of people, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was very inspired by the book 4 Hour Work Week, decided I wanted to have an organization based on sharing information. And I started a blog called Mind Management and went over psychology, sociology, meditation, social dynamics, philosophy. Um, Growing up in South Louisiana, there was an urge inside of me to eject from that culture. I love Louisiana, don't get me wrong, but I had to eject. My father from Cuba, he came here when he was 12 to America, and I wanted to go to another land, make something of myself. So I went to China, totally in the East, alone, didn't know anybody. And I then moved to the Himalayan mountains, spent about 5 years there. That's where I met my wife. And that's where I really started to fall in love with
Wait,
meditation
wait, let me
and
get this straight.
mindfulness.
You went to the Himalayan mountains and you met your wife over there. That's like the
Hmm.
that's like the ultimate like romantic like spirituality and romance like combined together. But yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it was. It really was. She was traveling through the desert at the time, and then she made her way to the mountains. She was with a group of people. And yeah, so we met. We've been together ever since. And then I felt comfortable living in the mountains, had everything I needed. I asked myself, where's the fear? What would make me feel very uncomfortable? And the idea of moving to a city of 25 million people, it scared the shit out of me. I'm from a small town of 6,000 people, South Louisiana. I said, okay, I have to go to Shanghai. Within a month of me moving to Shanghai, I started to go to networking events, and people started asking me to teach them meditation. Wow, this is amazing. I had no intention to teach meditation, but meditation was one component of the website that I had. People were really interested in that. So I started to teach. I taught about 1,000 people in a year for free. Then I created an organization called Shanghai Mindfulness, the simplest name. Got a job as a corporate mindfulness trainer because I wanted a mentorship. And I did that for about 4 years. Organization called Potential Project. Great people. Work with Alibaba, Chevron, Lego, Disney. Did some work with the FBI in the US. And from there, I asked the same question. I was very well known in Shanghai. And I asked myself the question, where's the fear? What would I hate doing the most? Going home. So after 10 years, a decade of being in China, I went back to US and I came to Austin, Texas, and I started to then relook at my life and see that there was a great need to help fellow mindfulness teachers, to help fellow meditation teachers. They didn't understand leadership. They didn't understand social entrepreneurship. So for the past 3 years, I've been training them in these skills to bring meditation to 10% of the world, because we have the teachers, but the education lies in their ability to share their teachings and to be found. So that's where I'm at today. And I'm super passionate about allowing other people or inviting other people to watch their mind through meditation, through mindfulness. As a species, we need to stop once a day, 15 minutes, cultivate selfless silence, watch the mind. And that's what I'm all about. It's a great foundation to becoming a better human being, in my view.
Brandon, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I think like you were literally like what you did when coming to the Western world, like coming to Austin, Texas, in a way, you're actually helped because there's like a saying, like the Eastern world is mainly like it tends to be the spirit more spiritual and everything, and the Western world tends to be more materialistic. But over here, you're an entrepreneur, but you're also into meditation, and you have found a way to combine both of them together, which it was not done until like recent history. Like for most of like human history, like it's either like spirituality, like was it supposedly like an isolated, like it was its own thing. Then entrepreneurship and like making money, it's like its own thing. But it was never like integrated before. So I don't know, like what's your opinion and perspective about the Venn diagram of like combining entrepreneurship with spirituality and all of that?
It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous, and it often equates to a bunch of charlatans running around trying to sell spirituality to convince somebody of a better life, and make a lot of money in the process. So I think that the vast majority of people who teach meditation are not ready to teach meditation. I'm one of them, but at least I own it. And I'm stubborn enough to know it. And
I
that's
mean,
what my
that's
Zen teacher tells
I
me
mean,
all the time.
I
And
mean, that's really humble of you to like say that, because like you've like taught like a lot of people and obviously you're pretty qualified. So
it's a matter of perspective. So, I've been training in meditation for 15 years, and it's a matter of perspective, expectation. I think that it's dangerous business to sell spirituality, because the first most important task is to cultivate integrity and to have a view of helping humanity, and not an agenda, but an intention to serve. And when one is making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, it does make things very tricky. Um, but at the end of the day, not even Jesus could please everybody. So no matter what you do, you're going to piss somebody off somewhere. And I think that it's complicated but at the same way, it's a good sign. It's a good sign that spirituality and these philosophies are now becoming so popularized that Westerners like myself have gone to the East, gone to the West, starting to promote this and share this in more of a modern way. But it still can be very tricky business. And this is one of the main things that we train teachers in because they do care and they may spiritually bypass and say, "Oh, I'm spiritual, so I don't want to make a bunch of money," or "I don't want to charge my teachings; they're so sacred." But at the same time, they're not able to share what they love, alleviate more suffering in the world while making simultaneously a right ethical livelihood. So that really is that you hit the nail on the head because that's the forefront of some of the problems that we're trying to solve uh, for these teachers when we're training them and helping them.
So it's a really interesting point, Brandon, because like normally like if you go to like I'm from India and in India like basically like they take meditation and spirituality pretty seriously, but they did it in a way where they did not care about like the monetary and material well-being of the people. If you look at go to India, there's like hundreds of millions of people like at below poverty line, you know, and like obviously you have to have some sense of financial freedom. But you go to the West, right? And you go to like, let's say Europe and America until like the 1960s, you see that they were so busy creating having success in the material world that on a mental level, they were depressed and unhappy because ultimately you need both. You need to have a balance between the material and the spiritual world. And for some reason, the Eastern world doesn't have that balance. The Western world didn't have that balance. But one of those reasons I'm really excited about interviewing you is because you have somehow managed to create a balance between the two worlds to the best of your ability. And it's something that we need to have on a much more wider scale because that will truly change humanity. Like where we are understand that we have to have some level of financial freedom, but also have spirituality and have an ethical way of living as at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that a lot of places in the East, they value things that are free. And donation-based culture is still prominent in places like India, Thailand, Taiwan, a lot of places in Southeast Asia. Here, if it's not free, it's not good. And that's a cultural Western capitalistic mindset that has been ingrained in people. And that is one of the reasons why the donation-based model seldom works. I'll give you a quick example. At Shanghai Mindfulness, my former organization, we always would have the bread and butter of what we did was once a month, we did one big free event in the community, offline, locally, totally free, with no agendas, not trying to sell them stuff. Just giving a lot of value just once a month, not more than that, not less than that. And those events were totally free. And because they were free, there was no money up front that people would pay to enter into them. Well, what we found was in the East, people who said that they would go, let's say we have 50 signups for the once a month event, 50% would show up totally free. We never asked for any money. Ran the same model in the West. Guess what the percentage of showing up was for the totally free event? You had 50 people sign up. How many people you think showed up?
Five, I suppose, 5 to 10.
It was about 20%, 15 to 20%. So substantially less. One of the things we did to mitigate this problem was on both East and West, we started to have a deposit. So if you want to come to the event, you have to put down 20 bucks. And when you show up, we'll give it to you back. So when people show up to our events in Austin, Texas, I'm handing out $20 bills left and right. Say, thank you so much for meditating. Thank you so much for meditating. And the reaction people get is priceless. They kind of like they have like a cultural seizure. They're kind of like, oh, I don't know. What is this? I don't understand. And it's fantastic because what we're balancing here is perception of value and opportunity cost. So you're putting a value on something and saying, hey, I don't even need your money. I love you. Thank you for coming. Whereas if it's just free, and there's no opportunity cost, no skin in the game, people don't follow through. So we're always finding ways to balance that, to value something that's invaluable.
So, Brian, you bring a very interesting point because technically it is a free event because you're handing back the $20, but the very act of them giving that $20 as a deposit makes them value it. And it's such an interesting psychology that you discovered that I mean, but is it just like a Western thing or is it just like it's like a
Both. It was both. So we did that at Shanghai as well. That went in Shanghai, that took show rates from 50% to 90%. Funny enough, in America, that took show rates from 20% to 90%.
wow.
Hmm. Now, it's good to note that Shanghai and modern China is very capitalistic. So you don't see as prevalent donation-based cultures. You would see more of that in India. But India also, as you know, is turning more into this hustle capitalistic culture. These Western values starting to get ingrained in there. But still, it's perception of value and opportunity cost and balancing that. It's often said that meditation and this liberation that we're seeking, it's so close, we can't see it. It's so great, we could never believe it. And it's so beautiful that you can never comprehend it because you're treated that you have to get somewhere to attain something. One of the fundamental teachings of meditation is there's nothing to attain, there's nothing to realize because what you seek, you already are. And putting that mindset in the Western culture where you're inundated with advertisements and buying stuff, a lot of it you don't need, some of it's very useful. Um, it's contrary. So, from an entrepreneurial perspective and also performance perspective, meditation turns innovation on its head. And it's such a great way for coming up with innovative solutions that's not on the side of the majority because you're doing the opposite that you've ever been taught when you start to watch the mind.
So, Brandon, I wanted to ask you a question connected to it. So, most people, when they go about their day, they have a very restless way of thinking, and they are always like in a negative mindset or negative loop where they're looking at advertisements and like I would have to add like the news media, and they get bombarded by the shock and awe of like just like shockingly negative stories, and like their entire day in general, like they are focusing on negative things and like they're trying to solve problems through that thing. But from your perspective, how does meditation lead to like a calmer mindset altogether and changes the way of thinking that where it benefits them in the long term in terms of perspective?
I think that there's two things, and I'll give to your viewers two fundamental teachings that I believe are useful. One is we have a hell of a lot less free will than we think we do. The sounds that you're hearing right now are happening to you. The breath that you're feeling right now is happening to you. The sights that you're seeing right now is happening to you. Indeed, the birth that occurred happened to you. You didn't sign up for this shit. You're just like, when you were 3 years old, you started to have some independence. You started to realize that you are actually an individual thing and started knocking things over. That's when that idea of this individual came about. And these thoughts, they're happening to us. We're not choosing them. You ever get a stupid song stuck in your head? So these desires are happening to us. This picking and choosing is happening to us. And to all together know that it's a happening, it's an occurrence that allows us to step aside and touch our true faith, experience our true nature. When we can experience our true nature, it's not all of this wanting, craving, desire, picking and choosing, left or right, good or bad. It's the observer, it's the true awareness And when you tap into that or realize who you really are, what this really is, then you start to realize that there's not a problem to solve. And one of the questions I often ask myself when the mind starts going on and on and on is, what's here now when there's no problem to solve? And not answering the question, but just taking a step back, relaxing into your true nature. And you start to realize a sense of liberation, a sense of freedom that often people explain it as the first 2 days of summer when you were a child. Like, oh my God, I have 2 weeks off. I have a month off. I have nothing to do. This is perfect. Wonderful. Oh, hmm. Oh my gosh, what a relief. The first day of vacation. That's what we're really easing into when we're cultivating meditative mind or this awareness.
Well, so Brandon, you mentioned that we are not the thoughts, but we're the awareness behind our thoughts, and I completely agree. But I want the audience to know a little bit more about this because most people they usually think that their identity and their thoughts are them. But what you're telling is to tell them to like take a step back and realize that you're the awareness or the observer behind those thoughts. But then once you disidentify with them, you realize that you're not those thoughts and you're not that identity. And a lot of like conflicts in the world happens because we are attached to our thoughts and our identities, even though they're temporary. So could you tell a little bit? Can you elaborate more about this concept so that the audience understands what we're talking about here?
So there's two things here. It's a great question. One is that everything is burning. Everything is impermanent. What will the building look like that you're in 50 years from now? 100 years from now? 100 years with one person ago, one person later. What's the building going to look like? What are you going to look like one person ago? 100 years later, who's going to remember you? What are you going to leave behind 500 years later, 1,000 years later, 2,000 years later, 1,600 years ago, approximately, there was an emperor of Rome, and he knew very well that people would not remember him. A lot of your viewers and listeners may not know who that person was. So that is very important to understand of impermanence and to find ways to bring impermanence into your life. God forbid if I live forever, I would just be on the couch for eternity. The only thing that makes something cherishing is that it's fleeting. There's only so many firsts in your life that's going to happen. And that's what makes it special. It's fleeting, it's changing. Everything is burning and permanent. And to know that these thoughts, this mind is occurring to you. And a lot of times we identify with ourselves is our thinking mind. And we identify with free will as what we have control over, what we can actually manipulate and change. And when we start to cultivate mindfulness and meditation, we start to notice first, wow, all of these thoughts are happening to me. But I'm actually not doing it. It's happening to me. So if I have no control over it, would I identify with it?
Wow.
You follow?
Yeah. That is super deep, Brandon, because like here's the thing, like a lot of people they are fighting over things that are impermanent, right? Like in my belief system, for instance, think about impermanence all the time. And I realize that yeah, we're not going to be alive in 100 years. All the things that we're fighting over is so petty. And people have all these identity conflicts and over religion, this and that, but they're not going to be attached to that body or that identity in the future, right? Like once
Correct.
you're dead, you're no longer identified with that identity or this person. Like all that's left is your soul. But I mean, I don't want to. If I were to dive in, like it would be like a 10-hour conversation. But if people understand about impermanence the way you're talking about, and that we are not our thoughts,
We'll
and we don't have to
continue
identify.
on, but we can kind of ground this for a lot of the other viewers and listeners out there, because we need we seek to have happiness, the pursuit of happiness, and that's big in America. It's not you're given happiness; you need to pursue it, and we ought to contribute to society and give back and help people make life better. Electricity, because thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of countless people labored over them, solved problems over them. And that was all from capitalism, mostly. And to be able to be at peace, to cultivate a non-striving mind while simultaneously practicing right effort, right concentration, and right mindfulness, and a right livelihood. This is one of the teachings from the Eightfold Noble Path, one of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism. And it's just a list of 8 things of being mindful, but also contributing to society. So, can you have a big, hairy, audacious goal, go for it, really change things for your family, for your town, for America, but at the same time, not give a fuck if you achieve it or not? But you're doing everything you can, but this letting go of having non-attachment, it's kind of like a love note to the universe or to God saying, I'm ready to bring this into my life, but I'm willing to work for it. I'm willing to sacrifice for it. I'm willing to be very skillful for it. But at the same time, if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to kill myself over it. I'll be at peace with it. And it's a balancing act at the end of the day. So that's one thing that a lot of meditators, they have a problem with, is that they become too frou-frou for capitalism, or they're like, oh, they might settle for $80,000 a year, or $100,000 a year, and they think big goals are bad. And that's one of the things that we also teach, is to be able to balance that. You have a very, very nice lifestyle. Just at the end of the day, no, you can't put a fucking, sorry for cursing. I don't know if it's allowed in your podcast,
That's
but you
fine.
can't
That's
put, okay, you can't put a fucking U-Haul on your casket. So just know that. But you can
Mhm.
also create generational wealth simultaneously, to have your family taken care of, and your family's family, and your family's family, and leave behind a lasting impact for the multitudes of people, and innumerable people, to help alleviate them from suffering. But just knowing that all this material stuff, yeah, you're gonna find a lot of multimillionaires and billionaires who may not be that happy with themselves. But you will also find a lot of very wealthy people very happy. It is the the great yin yang of life, the equalizer, the ultimate equalizer.
So Brandon, like since we're talking about the pursuit of happiness, American identity is about the pursuit of happiness, but it seems
Sure.
like most Americans go about it to the external world. So from your perspective, how do you blend, how do you balance capitalism with spirituality to create the perfect plan for to attain the American identity to pursue happiness, like in your mind?
It's a tall order. It's a tall order, and it's something that's never been done before. And that being known, I humble myself. Before I answer this question, I would send references, and I would refer to something called integral theory and an integral framework on life. I would also refer to meditation and Zen, people who like simplistic things. Um, and I would say that it's really, it's hard, because each person has a very, very different perspective. One person could say this is the ideal lifestyle, while the other person is snickering in the background. I think also Stoicism is a great tool. One of the most prolific Stoic writers was Seneca. Seneca was at the time one of the richest men in Rome. He was a great, great philosopher. And
Is he the one that
if you,
educated Emperor Nero? Is it the same Seneca?
I believe so. I believe he had affiliations with Nero. I believe so. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on it. Um, but I would say Zen, Stoicism, integral theory. These are all very useful tools to answering the question of questions. At the end of the day, if we can live a life where we're not causing harm, it's good enough,
So
in
Brandon,
my view.
So Brian, like American Identity, like I was looking at a like documentaries about how America came to be. Like they always pushed the frontiers, like they expanded westwards to the Pacific Ocean. But I think the ultimate frontier, when you're saying this is the hardest one, but since we're Americans, I know we can do it, is the frontier of the inner world, which meditation takes into account. Because the internal world, where we're attaining our true nature, is the ultimate frontier to be attained, because that's where the real happiness, like unlimited, like blissful happiness, will come from, is from inside. So like it's a pursuit that we have to follow, because we as extraordinary Americans, it is our duty to have the American identity of happiness. But yeah, it's something that came into my mind.
You know, America was birthed through a lot of suffering. People wanted a better life. People wanted a better lot, a better land, and it was innumerable suffering that our people, our species, came to this continent to settle, and there are innumerable wars that had on this land that came to the systems that we have today. And it all came from a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of people saying, I'm not going to fucking take this anymore. We're going to do everything we can to have a better world. I refuse. And let's get on this ship. Half of us are going to die in the process, but I don't care. Let's go. Get on. You got a 50-50 shot. I mean, that's what people get on these boats. And like half the crew would make it. The other one would get like some gnarly disease. And it was in that pain, in that suffering, a lot of motivation was there to climb up on the hierarchy of needs, climb up from food, shelter, water, climb up to family, to climb up to contribute to society, to climb up to having good relationships, climb up to this self-awareness and who am I? What is this? You're not going to have a guy in a cave have an existential crisis unless he's a yogi, or somebody living underneath the bridge and they're not on drugs. They're not going to be asking themselves, who am I? What is this? Why am I not happy? They're thinking about the next place that they need to sleep. They can think hour by hour, not month by month or year by year. So it's if God is real, she is a she is a very, very, very prolific prankster. She is like she got a fucked up sense of humor. Because life is dynamic like that, and I'm not saying God is or isn't real. I'm not going there. I'm just saying if she is and she's a she, well, she's got a fucked up sense of humor.
But you see, like if we're talking about, like, let's say the Buddha, like Buddha attained nirvana or like enlightenment from understanding suffering. So perhaps as Americans, we
Yep.
need to go through that suffering to reach our fullest potential, because only when we
Yep.
realize and get disillusionized with through suffering can we actually go towards a place where we'll attain a state of enlightenment or true happiness. But I don't know. That's just like
So
my thoughts.
maybe so maybe it was necessary all to begin with, is that this pain of suffering and making it in America or creating a business, it's a rite of passage. And to know that extinguishes the victim, saying, oh, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? Why do I suffer? Because it's a part of it. It's a part of it. But what goal will you choose to be able to endure the unimaginable pain that you will face in this life. Suffering is optional. Pain, though, is gonna happen no matter what. We've all faced it. I know a lot of your viewers out there, you've had pain before. So we need to find a virtuous goal, a virtuous calling that says, you know what? It was all worth it. All of that.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
And like, what is more virtuous than like the America's drive towards freedom, right? Which is also something that I wanted to ask you, because meditation is ultimately about finding inner freedom, right? But as
Correct.
Americans, like we're trying to find financial freedom, but we're also trying to find like an inner sense of freedom. So from your perspective, how does meditation play a role in like the American identity of like being free altogether?
Meditation allows you to realize that you're already free. You've been free since the very, 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 very beginning. And because of this realization in your inherent freedom, in your true nature, there's a lot less suffering. You will face the pain, but the suffering then becomes optional. So as you're out there grinding, you can grind and face pain, but you don't have to suffer. And happiness, a lot of people say, hey, when I get there or reach that, I'll be happy. Happiness is an emotion. It comes and goes like the tide. But this being of joy, of underlying joy in every single thing you do, that is one of the fruits of a strong, uh, selfless silence practice. I'll call it that because not everybody, probably somebody out there who tuned on is like, oh, meditation. Ugh. I'm not saying people need to meditate. I'm not like not fucking delusional. Like, yes, we should all meditate and play flute. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the fate of humanity relies on an individual's ability to sit quietly in a room with themselves for 10 to 15 minutes and be at peace with oneself. Not scrolling on Instagram or on TikTok or doing that or the other, just being okay in selfless silence. And if you can be okay in cultivating 10 to 15 minutes of selfless silence per day, you're going to have a lot less unnecessary suffering in the path of the great American dream, in my view.
That is awesome, Brandon. Yeah, like it's ultimately like our goal in doing that. But Brandon, I know that you have like your company, Modern Mindfulness. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about the company and what it does?
Sure. So at the end of the day, we do three things. We teach meditation to the general public, or as I like to call it, selfless silence. Two is we train organizations, a lot of corporations, a lot of executives, and optimal performance using meditation to do so and reach more liberation in your life. And then three is that we train advanced certified teachers in entrepreneurship and leadership. Those three things. Past 3 years, we really have a hard focus on social entrepreneurship training and leadership training for meditation teachers to bring these teachings to the world. And as of lately, we're starting to teach more in Austin, Texas, nationally and internationally to individuals and organizations. And it's my vision, our vision, to bring meditation to 10% of the world and really make this mainstream and make it popularized to look within ourselves. And that's what we're all about at the end of the day.
That is awesome, Brandon. Like I really vibe with your vision because I truly believe that if there's more people doing meditation, the world will definitely become an amazing place. So, so Brandon, like, is there any other project that you're working on right now that you want the audience to get a glimpse into?
I would say the one project I would like people to get a glimpse into is for the audience to answer this question daily is what would this moment feel like if there were no problem to solve? Instead of answering the question, just asking that question and letting go and experiencing the liberation that's already here. Another way of asking that is, what's here now when there's no problem to solve? And what that does is hijack the brain. It short circuits the brain to let go of all that problem solving and just to realize the present moment. Hey, it's not too bad. Oftentimes. So that's the one project I would give for myself and let other viewers. If you want to check us out, you could find me on LinkedIn, Brandon, Mehrgut. Also, modernmindfulness.com. We are going through a rebrand right now, so you might search that, find a lot of our materials. We're going for a more simple brand. The mindfulness movement is becoming very popularized, and the value of the word mindfulness is diminishing. Mark Twain once famously said, when you're on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. So feel free to get in touch by checking me out on LinkedIn or checking me out. Just Google my name. You'll find me, Brandon Mehrgut.
That is awesome, Brandon. I would definitely highly recommend my audience to definitely check you out and like to help, and like for those that are interested in meditation, to definitely like help you in your cause to spread meditation across the
Thank
world,
you.
because I truly believe in it, and I know many people in our audience will also believe in it as well. And so I want to let you know, Brandon, that it is really an honor to have you on the show, because you are blending East with the West, right? The Eastern thing of spirituality with the Western world of entrepreneurship, and we're combining it together, and it's amazing. And it was like an honor to have you on the show, and I would definitely want to interview you again sometime in the future.
Anytime. Anytime.
I want to conclude this show by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, hey, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us, and it's our duty to unleash it and awaken it. Until next time, bye for now.
Hey there, everyone. Thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets you free. Also remember that your purchasing power is being diluted through inflation, and then the practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power by investing in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Also, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.